Hello, and how are you doing today? Welcome to a podcast about education of people with special needs in Mexico. To start, did you know that 2 out of 10 people with special needs in Mexico do not know how to read or write? There is a very strong guiding question that everyone asks themselves in Mexico about education for people with disabilities. And that is, what strategies can we apply in Mexico to provide kids with disabilities in both the private and public sector with a high quality education? So, this is a very hard thing to do since education in Mexico is known to be very bad. The government does not pay or fund any of these public schools, as well as private schools, which they do not fund. Private schools in Mexico are highly expensive, that like 7% of the population in Mexico can actually afford, and they are very good. The level is very high, but there is not like an intermediate school. It is only like high level, which is private school, and very, very low level, which is public school. I personally interviewed 3 different people to have 3 different perspectives about how education for people with mental disabilities is in Mexico. The first person that I interviewed is a woman and a mother that has an association called Arena, which is a school for people with autism. Her inspiration was or is her son, which has autism, and it all started when she joined a support group with other mothers that have kids with autism or Down syndrome, and they were confused. They didn't know what to do, they didn't know how to educate their child because her son is 20 years old, and 20 years ago, people didn't have the same resources or the same attention that people give today to people with autism or mental disabilities. They didn't have that 20 years ago. So it was very hard for them to adjust to a society that not even the government has them in mind. So they got together and started this association, Arena, and they help a lot of kids today with autism. The way they do this is that they educate each child with the attention that they need and their specialties. For example, if a child does not know how to speak or does not know how to write, but they have logical thinking, their exams are with logical thinking and their teachings are with logical thinking. So they learn the same things that the majority of the children do, but they learn it in a different way. If a 2 year old child learns about Halloween by writing an essay, a kid with autism that does not know how to write will learn about Halloween by associating pictures. The second interview that I conducted was of a kid with Down syndrome that is currently having an education and is currently in a school special for people with Down syndrome. In his interview, you could see the passion that he has for his education and the love and the want that he has for his education. When he was asked why he wanted to learn, why he wanted to go to school, why he needed to go to school, he responded, "I like it. I love it. Uh, I wouldn't change anything for the world. I want to get a job. I want to be able to maintain a family." He has the same aspirations as the majority of people. And this is when people think that people with mental disabilities, they think differently, that they don't need an education. I believe that the government thinks that. Uh, when it is actually not true. They have better comprehension than many people think, and they want an education, and the government, by not having the funds necessary for people with mental disabilities to have an education in Mexico, a free education in Mexico, like it is their human right to, uh, they are not allowing people with mental disabilities to develop as most as they can. So this is a huge problem, since the government, the Mexican government, has to do something about it. And if not, people of the community have to do something about it, because they do not have this clear idea on their head. Um, I personally it didn't occur to me that people with mental disability need an education. I know that they need an education, but it wasn't as clear to me how big of a problem it was. So I believe that many people have this problem as well, have this mentality as well. The third and last interview that I conducted was of a student, a fellow student, and a friend that does not know anything and is not an expert at all on this subject. I decided to do this interview because I believe that a person should know that this is an existing problem. And I wanted to get the perspective when I asked her questions about this problem, how she would react, not only the things she would say, but the things she would do when I asked her, why do you think people with mental disabilities need an education? Um, what do you think is the best way for people to learn? Do you think they learn differently? I could get a whole different perspective about how people, normal people, per se, uh, thought about this problem. Like, if they think like me, if they are aware, if they believe that this is a problem, if they think we should battle more important things first, or things like that. So, this really helped me a lot. This interview really helped me a lot, since maybe she is not an expert on the subject, but I could sort of deduce how the government thinks about this problem and how people think about this problem, and how can we change how people think about education with people with mental disabilities in order for them to help form a school or proper education for people with mental disability. Last but not least, some possible solutions to battle education in general and for people with mental disabilities are the following. Well, to better the conditions of education in public schools, we need to fund them. What a better way to fund them than with money and supplies? This will not come cheap, and it is a way to put kids like to work. They can do social services, they can raise money, they can raise supplies in order to keep the schools maintained, and for the government, for the little money that they give, that it goes to the installations, because we know the teachers are good, the supplies are bad, that's why we need donations, but it is way easier to donate supplies than to donate money. So, another possible solution is that special kids need special attention and dedicated attention. So, maybe there's a way that the government or the teachers can conduct a system where each day a student will pay attention to this person with a disability, and if they need help, if they see they need help, they go and get the teacher and stuff like that. That can really make a change on a kid's education, and it can really make a change on not only the special kid education but the other kid education too, as well, since they are forming as a person. Well, that is all for today. Thank you so much for listening.